Welcome to Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. From their first to their worst, we're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, a bona fide fanatic with a pretty sweet Twitter feed I'm absolutely obsessed with, Meshia, a YouTube creator, jewelry maker, street fairy, and personal stalker of the Culkin brothers, who is here to talk about a trio of students from the best school in Canada, Degrassi. Hey, hun, how are you today?
Hi, hun. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so excited to talk about Degrassi.
Me too.
So, we're gonna just go one by one. You had three crushes from the show, so we'll start with a guy who is most definitely one of the biggest fan favorites, both then and now, and that's Craig Manning. So, what made him stand out against the likes of Drake, Spinner, Jimmy?
Drake, yeah.
Drake, Jimmy, Aubrey, don't know what to call him now, but
well, Craig, ever since he stepped on the scene in season 2, he seems like a broken soul. And there are girls that are like, oh my god, I can fix him. I think that part of it. Also, he's super relatable. The stuff he went through with the abuse from his biological father and his bipolar diagnosis, I can really relate to. That's honestly why he's one of my favorite characters. No matter how flawed he is, and he is very flawed, he is just someone that I don't know, that I can just relate to and just love no matter what. And he's super cute. I think I should mention that. He's a little cutie pie.
So you mentioned, yes. So even you were around 9-10 years old when this crush developed. Even then, you kind of knew he was problematic. Not problematic, but he did have a lot of flaws. And you were okay with that?
Yeah, maybe I wasn't as woke, I hate that word so much, as I was when I was 8 or 9, about just how much damage he is. He cheated on every single girlfriend he's ever had. And when I was younger, I didn't condone the cheating, but it wasn't a defining factor of whether I liked him or not. And I think as I'm watching the show as an adult, I'm yeah, that's kind of messed up. Yeah, just seeing things that I didn't really see as much as a kid.
Yeah, I think for me, Craig is the best representation of a lot of crushes we have when we're younger, in that he's all types of wrong, but we don't really see that because all we see is he's just really cute,
Yeah.
We're just I don't know. Yeah, back then, because me and my friends, we were in about 9th grade when Degrassi came out, and everyone was you'd pick your favorite, and then nobody else could have them as, quote unquote, their boyfriend. And my friend Kim got to Craig first, and we were all so upset. I don't know for what reason we thought now we can't like him as much because that's just how our minds work. I got Jimmy, I think it was. And then I have this curse of my favorite Degrassi characters always just getting the shit end of the stick. Jimmy got shot. I did Tristan. Obviously, he got into the bus crash and was, a vegetable or whatever. All my favorite. JT was another favorite, which we'll get to. So,
yeah.
Yeah, all my favorites always get fucked up. So on the other side of the spectrum from Craig is, I think, the kid that represents the boy we know in school who is cute but just falls short because he's kind of just this cutesy boy, and I just mentioned him, and that's JT. So what about JT, because he's so opposite of Craig, did you like?
I don't really have a type in my personal life or for my fictional crushes. I really like someone who can make me laugh. If you can make me laugh, I'm yours forever. And JT is the class clown. He's really funny, but he's also really sweet as well and very smart. And he's just the full package. He can be really immature at times, but he just really has a good heart.
He does. He does. He was probably one of the sweetest characters when you break them all down. For sure. So around the same time JT caught your attention, so did another Degrassi student, a student that is a queen, an icon, and that is Manny Santos. Was she kind of the first girl to make you go, okay, I'm into her? And was it Manny post-thong that caught your attention, or was it pre-thong Manny? Two very different people.
Yes. Okay, I'll answer the first question. I actually don't remember who my first girl crush was in the fictional universe. But Manny is definitely like one of the earlier ones. But like back then I didn't see it as a crush because like I hadn't come to terms with my sexuality yet. I just remembered really liking her personality, and she's so sweet and kind, and I loved her fashion, and I thought I just wanted to be friends with her. But like I found out, no honey, you're just queer. And I just like recently in the last like few years realized that I did have a crush on her when I was younger. So yeah. And for your second question, my crush definitely like started post on me. And it wasn't even like because of, you know, her expressing her sexuality. It was just that I feel like she became confident in herself. Even though like she wanted the attention and approval of boys, but that's like another conversation for a different day. But I just felt the confidence in her, and like I was just really admired her and the way that she stood up for herself.
So the crush for Manny, was it kind of like it started like admiration, and then you realize years later like, oh wait a minute, she's also hot?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what I do love about Degrassi was that, well, it went there in terms of talking about like not only sex, but like you said, it talked about sexuality. And I mean, like back when the Next Generation started, they were kind of alone in terms of LGBTQA storylines when it came to that age range. I mean, I was watching like Queer as Folk and Will and Grace, but they were all adults. You know, there wasn't a lot of kids. So then it was like more basic and what else I gonna say? So did Degrassi help you in any way come to terms with your own sexuality through watching the show? Not just crushing on the characters, but like the storylines?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Marco, he, I think he was like the first fictional character that was a part of LGBT that I saw on TV. And just seeing the struggles that he went through with his eternal homophobia, and those are the kind of things that I went through when I was trying to figure my sexuality out. And I just really related to him. And yeah, he was, for a while, he was like kind of my little mascot, my little queer mascot.
What about when like Paige came out with Alex? Did that further help?
Oh my god. If only you could see little me when that storyline started. That was my life. Like I lived for it. Yes, I am definitely pro Paige and Alex. I just absolutely love them, and the fact that Paige is a woman or girl, I can relate to her a lot more. And considering that the time that storyline came out, I thought I was bisexual and Paige is bisexual. I just felt seen, maybe for the first time ever when it comes to my sexuality.
Well, that's good. See, Degrassi is helping everybody. And even today with the newer one, well, the former newer ones, because there's no more new ones, they had one character who was like non-binary as well. say?
Oh, really? I actually haven't watched the most recent seasons.
What?
I know. I heard the gasp. I know. Every time I tell people that, I was like, they're like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Y'all, I'm gonna get to it. I'm going at it in order. I'm gonna eventually get to the newer seasons. Promise."
Be prepared to fall in love with a whole new generation. They're all great. I think I was that person that's like, when Paige and them started to age out and they started to let the new ones come in, like Eli and everybody. I was like, oh, no, they'll never be Jimmy. They'll never be Craig. And then I would fall in love with each new class. Like, it's just such a good show. Every generation's great. The only one I have never watched the 80s version.
You haven't?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the ones you have to watch. They're so good.
I think they're on Prime, so maybe I'll catch them someday. But yeah, the newer ones, they get me every time. But for me, my number one character is always and forever going to be JT, and I think that has a lot to do with his relationship with Liberty. You talk about feeling seen with Paige and Marco. Well, for me, like, I love when I see interracial couples. I come from one. I'm in an interracial relationship. So in high school, I was just in like awe because they were so cute to watch. And I was like, oh my God, I wish like I had a JT growing up. I didn't, not until college. But did that have any impact on you at all, seeing like an interracial relationship or anything, or the Liberty character even? Because the Black characters, we'll be honest, don't get a lot of love in the Degrassi realm.
No, they do not. And I talk about that a lot on my channel. I went to a high school in Mississippi, the most southern state you can get. And I went to a predominantly white school. So a lot of my crushes were white. I didn't have crushes on them on purpose. It just so happens that they were white. So I definitely felt seen with Liberty and JT. I can definitely see myself in Liberty. She was kind of like the teacher's pet and the nerd, and I ate lunch with my teacher instead of the students because they bullied me. So, yeah, I can definitely see myself in both.
So would you say like your crush on DT, you were kind of like living through Liberty in a way? You're like, oh, look at that boy. He likes her. Maybe I can get a boy like that too. That's how I was.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, if I can get, well, I didn't want to be pregnant, that's for sure, but.
Oh, no.
If I could have everything they had except the baby, that would have been cool.
Yes.
So, like, you did something where you went and you ranked all the characters on the next generation, and I'll get to my favorite part of it in a minute, but I noticed that a lot of the Black characters they were in the deserve better, needed better storyline we just mentioned, because they don't get a lot of love. I think Liberty was kind of Liberty and Jimmy were kind of the only ones to get like this lengthy storyline. Why do you think that is? Is it they didn't have enough Black writers? Maybe, I don't know, the makeup of Canadian schools? Like, what do you think that is? And do you think it was a colorism thing as well?
Well, I think everything is a colorism thing. So I definitely think that had something to do with it. Drake or Aubrey or whatever, he's half white. He's light skinned. Sarah, who plays Liberty, is half white. She is light skinned as well. So I don't think that's a coincidence. I definitely think that was deliberate, whether they realized it or not. And I don't know if you like watch Andrea Lewis's YouTube channel, but she talks about her experience on set, how she went to the writers and had to practically beg them to give her more lines to give Hazel something to do. And I know she said that they never did. How did because of that.
What was that? I lost you.
I'm sorry. What part did you hear? What's the last part?
When she went to the writers.
Oh, okay. Well, she would go to the writers and had to practically beg them to give Hazel more storylines and to give her more lines. And I just know that she was really frustrated with that because they never really did give her anything.
And I mean, when you finally get to the like Netflix generation of kids, you'll see it still continuing. I don't really know the names of the Black characters. I don't really remember a lot of their storylines because there wasn't many. And every time they have one, it's just like always about race. It's like they just can't have a simple storyline. So that's frustrating to see. I don't like that. I wish like I'm more than just my race. Can't I just have a simple like I like this guy storyline? You know?
Exactly. And like that's what I talked about in the Don't Believe the Hype episode. That was Hazel's like only episode. And it had to do with her hating herself, hating her religion, of her being Muslim. I was like, that's really the only storyline you're gonna give her.
Mm-hmm. They do it again in the Netflix one with one of the Black girls. It's about race, and I was like, oh, well, that's like their go-to. They're like, well, here's the Black character, so they're gonna have an issue. But I'll go back to your rankings because my favorite thing you said is when you rank Spinner. You said he created homophobia. Don't believe me? Look in the history books. And I just have to say, I have like no question for you about it. I just have to mention it because I was watching it at like midnight and I let out the biggest cackle. I thought it was so funny. It's like, oh
yes. Spinner's an interesting character. I don't know whether to love him or hate him.
I was watching during the quarantine. I got to like I want to say like maybe season. I don't remember what season I got to, but don't know why. But every night I would stay up on Prime, watch it on Prime, and like I'd go through and I'd have a little notebook and I'd write down like the A plot and the B plot, and then I'd rank the characters after each season, just based on like their negative and positives. And Spinner was definitely hit or miss.
Yeah.
You have the homophobia, but then he'd be like super nice, but then you're like, well, you got your best friend shot, but then like, it's so back and forth with him. He's definitely someone who's not definite in good or bad, unlike some characters. So have rewatching the episodes as you're older impacted your crush on these characters, like JT, Manny, and Craig? Have they intensified, maybe gotten a little less?
Well, I don't really have crushes on them now, obviously, because they're kids.
The idea.
So, the idea of it. I definitely can remember why I had a crush on them. I definitely, now rewatching it, I can remember how major it was, how major the crushes were. So yeah, it's definitely stirring up some past emotions.
So before we get to anything else, can you tell me your like Degrassi's known for going there, it's their tagline. Can you tell me your favorite go there moment when it comes to Craig, JT, and Manny?
Well, the one for Craig that I remember the most was when he proposed to Ashley at her dad's wedding. I just remember the promo they would play of Craig wrecking the hotel and him just sitting there with the phone. I remember I got really scared the first time I watched it as a kid. I was like, wow, like this is like serious.
You're like, ay.
Right. I just remember being so scared for him after that. Like I didn't know what was gonna happen. With Manny, I think her pregnancy episode, because originally they didn't show that in the US. I think they didn't show it until like a few years later when Cassie demanded that they show it in the US in this little like marathon they did. So when people were like talking about Manny being pregnant, I was like, what? Like, is that a mini episode that I didn't know about? Like, I didn't know it was a real episode until like years later. So yeah, that really stuck with me. And they talk about abortion in that episode, and I'm definitely pro-choice. So yeah, I think that really stuck with me with Manny. Yeah, you live in the U.S., right?
Yes, yes.
Do you remember the first time you saw that episode?
I want to say I was like well into college. I started watching when I was a freshman in high school. I don't think I even knew that existed, that episode, until I was like maybe in college. I was like, what? When the hell did she get pregnant?
Right.
Years after the fact, I was like, oh, yeah. I was still watching in college. Like I was not a cool person. I was like, oh my god, I gotta catch. I was like, we have to have the N for our cable. I have to watch it.
Yeah.
Everyone else.
Oh, remember when it was called the N? Oh my god.
I was at Noggin, then the N, Teen Nick, all that, but I didn't care what it was called as long as they were airing Degrassi.
Yeah. And then
I was gonna say, what about JT's go there moment?
Yeah, it was definitely his death. I don't think the only other moment that would be sort of at the same level as his death, but not really, was when he overdosed. But with his death, by the time that his death came around, I had watching the show for a little bit. And I really played myself with this then, because I was on YouTube one day, and I saw like a thumbnail of someone's video of an edit they made of JT. And the thumbnail, it was Liberty and Toby crying. I was like, why are they crying? I've never seen this before. And then I thought, like, what do they have in common? JT. Oh, JT's dead. I was like, no, that can't be true. Then I watched the episode and my soul literally died that day.
I remember the ad, the promo for that season, and they said like one of these characters weren't gonna make it. I was like, are you serious? I was like, it's just anybody but like JT. That's what I remember telling myself. I was like, let it be Toby. Let it be Toby. To this day, I'm like, let it be Toby. I remember I was in my college dorm. My best friend was my roommate, but she had gone home for the weekend. So I was alone. It was like dark. I was like sitting in the dark watching this episode, heave crying, like snot coming out of him. Like it could have been my brother that just got shanked. Like I was crying so hard. I'll never forget it. It was like one of the worst moments of my life.
Yeah.
And to this day, it's just Toby.
Yes. And the fact that Ryan Cooley wanted to go to school, I just can't get over that.
I know, like, what? You could go to school later. Like, you think of like the age they were seniors, like you were gonna age out of it. Why did you have to die? Like, dang, you didn't have to kill yourself off the show. You could have went the Paige route, spinner, just pop back in once in a great while.
Yeah.
Dying was a bit much.
It was.
To rewatch,
it was very traumatic.
I know, and to rewatch that season and to fall in love with Liberty and JT all over again, watching it last year during quarantine, I was like, it still hurts.
Yeah, and I'm dreading doing that episode on my channel because I know I'm just gonna be crying like a baby throughout the whole thing. But like, I think my viewers are like, they know me for crying on my channel. Like the last video I released was like Tears Are Not Enough. I cried all throughout that video, so I think they'll be okay with that.
Well, I mean, it's an emotional show. Most of the time. Sometimes it's about penis pump, and sometimes it's about getting shanked. That's the beauty of Degrassi.
Yeah.
Like when I was rewatching, I was like, some of these plots are like, what the hell is going on? Like the first episode with like Emma, and then you like a silly episode, and you're like, how are these coming from the same team of writers?
Yeah, like that was like my problem with season 1, how the first two episodes were like so big and dramatic and serious, and then like the rest of the season, it's like Ashley running for class president. Like, I don't care.
Like, I want it to go there every episode.
Yes, traumatize me every single episode.
Do you watch This Is Us by any chance?
No, but I've heard of it.
Oh, it's one of those shows where it's not about teens in any way, but it's not a teen show, but like it does have that same emotional impact. And when it doesn't, it's kind of just a throwaway episode. You're kind of upset that you didn't cry that week.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like Degrassi. Like, if I'm not going, it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, that was a waste of my 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So, do you ever think of what kind of kid you would have been like if you went to Degrassi? Like, who would you have hung out with and your friends?
Well, I would have loved to hang out with Paige and her crew, but knowing what type of person I was in high school, I would probably hang out with Liberty.
Yeah, I was definitely the Liberty. I was the smart kid who was very like type A about their grades. But I probably, like, as much as I didn't like him, I probably would have hung out with Toby.
Yeah.
He probably would have been like my only friend, and I've been like, dang it, Tobes.
Yes. And like, I wasn't like a goth or anything, but I think I would have pretended to be a goth to hang out with Ashley and Ellie.
One of my best friends in middle school and college, they were goth kids.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, yeah, I met her in 6th grade, and she had those big Spice Girl shoes, super into Spice Girls. And then 7th grade hit, and it was like black lipstick. We're gonna listen to bands like Cold Chamber and Kitty. But she was like, and I loved like Backstreet Boys and boy bands, but we were still like besties. So I think you wouldn't have had to pretend. She would have been cool with you.
Yeah, I mean, they seem pretty cool and accepting, so.
They are the hot topic kids that we used
Yes.
For me, like, I always wanted them to do like a little sideshow where we see the other kids at Degrassi, like to the ones who weren't like super dramatic. I always thought that would be kind of like a cool online show for them to do. Like their reaction to be like, dang, Ashley's like so fucking much right now, like those kids.
Yeah.
Like I wish if they were to bring it back, they should do that.
Yeah.
So because you rolled your crushes up into 3 ones, we're gonna play the classic Fuck, Marry, Kill with Craig, JT, and Manny. Which, if you want to take the easy way out, you can just kill JT because he's already dead.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Oh boy. I would. Oh, fuck Craig. I don't want to kill Paige. I don't want to kill Manny. I guess I'm gonna take the easy way, marry Manny, and kill JT.
But your hands aren't dirty in that because JT has already been shanked.
Right, exactly.
So everyone, I think that mine would be definitely, I would have to kill Manny. I would marry JT. I know. I'd fuck Craig, marry JT, and R.I.P. Manny. I know, but Manny, I mean, JT's my number 1 Degrassi crush. I was trying to think of my other ones. I like Jimmy he was like my first Degrassi boyfriend after I didn't win Craig's heart in my high school against my friend. Shout out to him.
But Jimmy's cool though. He's really sweet.
I like Jimmy. He was an interesting character. I didn't understand his relationship with Ashley. I thought that was weird. Mm-hmm. They never gave him like a love interest where I felt like it made sense until he got shot and he met that girl in physical therapy. She seemed cool.
Yeah.
So this is usually, so now we're going to talk about what you have going on outside of Degrassi, but that's what you do. You talk about Degrassi. So when you When you started your YouTube channel, The Grapevine, you noted that you just wanted to connect to fans out there. How do you feel that's going, and has the Degrassi fandom treated you well so far?
Yeah, they've all been great, and I've met a lot of friends through the channel, and everyone's so sweet, and I just love that I get to talk to about Degrassi to people, because I was like one of two people at my school who watched the show, so I never really had like anybody to talk to about it. So it's really cool. It's opened up a lot of opportunities for me.
What were these kids at your school watching, if not Degrassi? These losers?
I have no idea what they were watching.
Because were you like, was this the age? Was it like Hannah Montana maybe was popping?
Oh, no, it was younger. It was like 11 when I found like one other girl who watched it. I was like 11.
Were you like, be my friend, be my friend?
Yes.
It's not like whenever I meet somebody like one of my good friends, Ashley, we bonded over Backstreet Boys, but we're also like huge Degrassi fans. So it's something that's, and we met when we were well into adulthood. So we were like, you like Degrassi? Yes. That's kind of cool. So was this channel your first go at doing YouTube videos?
No, not technically. I mean, I released like little random videos like years before I started the Degrassi one. Like just random videos of me being stupid. I wasn't like dedicated to it or anything. But yeah, a lot of like Eminem videos, like of me rapping Eminem, because like I used to be a huge fan of his. And yeah, that was basically it. Like nothing too exciting.
So Eminem, if an Eminem fan, I'm surprised you didn't like someone like Sean. He has like an Eminem vibe to him.
He is like he was one of my crushes. But I just wanted to like settle on three, like my big three. But yeah, I did like Sean.
And that thick neck of his. His neck is so
yes, and those thick bush eyebrows.
Yeah, and like he looked like none of the other kids really, but he was a kid that could have went to my school. And maybe that's why I didn't like him.
Yeah, you didn't like him?
I didn't like him, and even in my rewatch, I was like, no, not Sean. I wasn't a fan. There's some Degrassi characters, like I love the show. There's some Degrassi characters where I'm like, nope, get out of here. So on top of talking about Degrassi, you also make jewelry. Is this something you have like an Etsy store for, or you just sell somewhere?
No, I don't have an Etsy yet. I'm too scared, but eventually I'm gonna start one. But I've just been like selling stuff like through my Twitter. But like eventually I'm gonna like upgrade to an Etsy, and yeah.
Well, I know a lot of people, they jump on there and you never know what could happen, but hey, selling on Twitter is just as good. Do you make like Degrassi themed ones?
Yeah, most of my stuff so far has been Degrassi, but like I've made like a Clueless bracelet because I really love Clueless. Lady Gaga bracelet. Yeah, I definitely like want to branch out outside of Degrassi.
Well, maybe, you'll have more inspiration when you get to the Netflix generation.
Yes, I will.
So when it comes to the idea of Degrassi coming back in any way, would you be for some of the icons of like the next generation coming back as parents and teachers, like Saved by the Bell did, or would you want a total rework like the Babysitter's Club?
I've talked about this like with a few people. I definitely want to see some of the older cast come back from the next generation. Specifically like Liberty, maybe like trying to find her baby and maybe starting a little relationship with them. Angela, I want her to come back. And Craig as well. I really want to see like Angela and Craig interact more because they're my favorite siblings of the show. And I feel like they didn't have that much interaction, so I would love to see that. Yeah.
Well, hopefully, I know.
Also, I want to see like, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, also I want to see like Emma's biological dad come back, because I feel like that would have been an interesting dynamic.
Do you think that he'd still be around?
No. I mean, probably not, if we're being realistic.
I think it'd be interesting if they did either or, especially if they could get the people that did Saved by the Bell. I think Saved by the Bell did it perfectly. The Babysitters Club as well, perfect. The New Mighty Ducks, perfect. So there is a way they can do it. It's just about the right people being involved. But maybe we'll find out more, because I know some of the Degrassi cast members are reuniting for that thing in Austin.
Right.
So I'm so mad that all these like anniversaries are happening with like the COVID scare, because I'm like, could have been there, didn't have to be on Zoom. I'm like,
I know. I'm missing out on a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, like I love Josie and the Pussycats, and I was like, oh my god, it turns 20 this year. It's their anniversary, and I was like, if they do a Zoom and they're not gonna do like a live thing in LA, and of course I saw it on like Entertainment Weekly, and there they were on Zoom. I was like, son of a COVID, it's like personal now.
I know, and I can't believe Josie and the Pussycats turns 20.
I know. I got the soundtrack on my 14th birthday. My best friend gave me the soundtrack, and I still have the exact CD.
Oh my god. I remember when that DVD came out, I went to Blockbuster when Blockbuster existed, and I rented it, and like I watched it all that day. Like, I can't believe that was like 20 years ago.
It's insane. And I mean, it's slowly, I think it's a cult classic, but it seems like every year it gets more and more popular. And I'm like, why wasn't it as popular when it came out? It was so good.
Right.
So in a perfect world, which cast members would you love to welcome to your own little piece of the grapevine?
My number one is Andrea Lewis. I really just love her. Like, even outside of Degrassi, she's making movies and she's just doing really great things. And I love Hazel. And I feel like we would have a lot of things to talk about. And she has liked a lot of my stuff on Twitter. So I feel like she knows I'm alive. So that's the first step.
You're like, come on, you should ask her.
My resolution for this year was to get a cast member on the show, but I don't like rejection. So.
You never know. You just have to reach out. I think, when I started this, I was like, oh my god, like I don't know if they'll say yes, but I've only had a few no's, and it once you get the first no, it's kind of, you're like, all right, I can handle this. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna strengthen up. Yeah, but I think they'd be cool to talk about, especially it is their anniversary year for the next generation. I wanted to talk to Ephraim Ellis, the infamous Rick.
Oh yes, Rick. Yes.
Because in like real life,
I him too.
In real life, that's who my type is. Not the character, but in real life, like just how he looked, that's the kind of guy I would be into.
Yes, that's exactly the type of guy I'm into. He reminds me, like, look-wise, a lot of Rory Culkin. And those are, like, the type of guys that I'm into. The ones who look, like, kind of disheveled,
Like, and, if he didn't shoot Jimmy, like, he still would have been, I think I could, like, openly say Rick was my Degrassi crush, but then he had to go and be, like, murder. It was like,
yeah, once he like abused Terry, I'm like, no, I'm good.
I know, take a step back. But today I would say Rick from Degrassi, probably my number one looks wise. Well, I hope that you can get a cast member on the show, be it Hazel, Rick, Spinner, whatever one wants to come on.
Yes, I hope so.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Well, Meshia, can you tell people where they can find you online?
You can find me on YouTube at The Grapevine, on Twitter at DCS The Grapevine, and on Instagram at DCS The Grapevine.
All right, Misha. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me about your Degrassi crush. And everyone, you can find all of Misha's information below. And until next time, keep crushing it.